Okay, if you're on YouTube, you have to bear with me here real quick. Okay.
You're listening to the Coach Hodge and Bank Show on the Coaching, Culture, and Athletics Radio Broadcast Network. Sit back and enjoy the show. Please note, the views and opinions discussed in this podcast aren't necessarily the opinions of the host and or Coach Hodge and Bank Show on the Coaching and Culture Athletics Network.
Got a nice voice. Pretty professional for us. All right. Hey, I want to welcome everybody to another edition of Coaching, Culture, and Athletics. My name is Chuck Banks, Coach Banks, however you want to state it. Tonight, I have a special guest in-house. I said house. In-house, okay? And, Coach Evan Swanson. And tonight we're going to talk a little bit about, kind of your background in coaching and philosophy and all that sort of stuff. Old school versus new school. Thoughts on the mad culture in athletics? That's something to touch base on.
Oh yeah, it's running rampant nowadays.
And who was your hero, stuff like that. But we'll get into that here in just a few moments. If you get a chance, be sure to share, subscribe, and follow us. As I kind of see a Coach Banks and Coach Swanson show, and we'll get Justin Benjigurtis, his sweet voice, maybe to make us an intro as well.
I think that'd be a great time. I look forward to that happening.
Now, Coach Hodges has the evening off. I'm sure that Coach Hodges is out there. He's probably going to listen in, so I have to give him some props here. And lots of accolades. He's he's a two-time state qualifying coach. Won the state title last year. Just a great guy all around, and that's truly what it's all about. It's about surrounding yourself with a positive culture, to influence kind of everything that's in here. Now, as I'm moving around, I'm going to bring up the chat. So if anybody's in there, if you have a question throughout, just just throw it in all caps so we can see it. That might be the best.
I agree. I think that would work.
Now, Swanson. Why did you become enamored and so excited, to be in this thing called coaching?
Well, I don't think there's a better way to influence young kids besides teaching. Coaching is great. It's a love of the game. It's a love for the sport. It's the lessons that you learn throughout the sport. I mean, I love basketball, and that's what I coach. But going through basketball and the ups and downs of the game all the time, they're just life lessons that you're constantly learning. And it's fun to influence younger kids. It's fun to influence people and just be that positive role model in their life. It's something that I've always enjoyed. I love sports. I love being around kids because it's such a great environment and you can influence the younger generations. It's always fun.
Now, looking back at last season, I had the opportunity, to coach with you, and it was an amazing experience. We might not have been successful in the win-loss column. However, we did learn, a lot of valuable, life experiences when it comes to that, right?
Oh, yeah, we did. We learned a lot of, life lessons, a lot of good little experiences along the way. It was a tough year. It was abysmal, to be honest. I mean, it's not a type of season any coach ever wants, but looking back, it's something I'll always remember, though.
One thing about these kids, and a lot of these kids are playing baseball right now, with the Central Lee Hawks, and they are having an extremely great year. When you look at win-loss, we got one loss.
One loss. They're doing great.
And you look at the kids, they struggled in football last year, struggled in basketball. They went out and they played soccer. They tried something new, or they went out for track. And I think that's really what set him up. So yeah, you gotta, hats off to those guys. Waylon Wyrather, I'm sure, is listening to this, so I have to give him a special shout out. And all the coaching staff with baseball, they're doing an amazing job.
They are. I mean, I've watched a few games. They're fun to watch. All the boys out there are just working their tails off to play. I mean, having one loss right now, and that one loss, I mean, it was just a game where things didn't go their way. They hit the ball well. It just flew into the other team's midst the whole time. But it'll be fun going forward as the season starts to wind down. We get to playoffs and tournament play. It'd be nice for them to make some noise. Yeah,
and you know what? They're gonna get their their arch nemesis.
Oh yeah.
Probably the first game. If Van Buren can get past Sheridan.
Yeah, and that'll be a heck of a game. It'll be fun to watch.
I'm excited to go watch it as well. But state of Iowa, come on, $6, $6 a ticket. Okay, I won't go any further with that. Right now. Take us back to the moment that you realized that you wanted to be a coach and a teacher.
I think I wanted to be a coach before I wanted to be a teacher, in all honesty. It was my high school basketball coach, John Baumgartner. He was an amazing coach. And I just loved learning the game from him. I was not a basketball person. Growing up, I was more in the football realm, but in a small town, smaller than, Central Lee community, you play every sport. And so growing up, I really developed and became a basketball player, and learning from him and learning what it takes to be a winning and a championship coach. I just like the lessons that he left me with and the things that he got me to do. I mean, he really made me a better person and a better coach and a better player. And so I like that feeling. I like working hard. I like that concept they instilled in me. And so I thought, you know what, I want to do this. And the best way to do it is to be a teacher and a coach, because you're around the kids every single day.
How were they able to win you over, as far as their culture? Because there has to be something ingrained in the culture for them to win a person over to get into education or into coaching, because, frankly, the pay isn't that great, right?
No. My high school basketball coach, I have to give it out to him. Last year, he got his 300th career win. He's now coaching girls. But, I mean, it was a culture of winning. It was year after year after year state tournament berths. I mean, we went – it had to be 8 out of 10 years, 7 out of 10, something like that. I was lucky to go 3 times. But the lessons that we learned, it was always the next man up, and always you do your job. You're a star in your role. And I can remember the year that we went to the state tournament my junior and senior year, and we played in the state championship. You can look at 10 games, and out of those 10 games, you might have a different score for 7 of them. We might have different scores for all 10 of them maybe. It was never about just one individual going and doing their thing. It was about the team, the collective work that individuals have to put in together. And I think that's kind of what rubbed off on me. I like that concept of people working together, because that's what our society is built on, is people collaborating, working together. And he really kind of laid that foundation at a young age, that that's what you have to do to be successful.
Now, and I'm sure it goes even deeper than that. How was he able to basically win you over when you're talking about kids and trust, and what I mean, feeling safe. One of the greatest things that I read this week is it's not only important for an athlete to feel safe when they're making a mistake, but it's also important that an athlete feels safe when they're achieving, and doing those things. But how was he able to build that culture and to promote that love and what I mean, an aspect when it comes to that? I'll stop stuttering here in just a few moments.
I think it was the fact that he was able to make it about the team in general. There was never individual accolades. That was never something that anyone cared about. It's not something he ever pushed. It's something that he told from the beginning, like, this is a team sport. And he let us make mistakes. He let us know when we messed up, especially if we did it multiple times. He always said, you get 1 time, 2 times, I might think about pulling you. 3rd time, it's probably going to happen. But it's a teaching experience. But he knew we were kids, and that's the best part. He treated us like kids, but responsible kids. Like, we knew we wanted to have this responsibility to be a good team. We knew we wanted to do these things. We knew we wanted to go to the state tournament and win, 25, 26, 27 games a season. And so he gave us enough rope to make our own decisions, but also held it tight enough to know that if you want to do this, these are the things that you have to do.
Now, did you have many parent issues, growing up? Do you remember?
Oh, there were plenty of them. Small town politics, as always. I can remember my freshman year, he almost got fired mid-season because he was a loud local coach. Nothing wrong with that. I'm a loud vocal coach. You and I both are. You can't get away from that. Can't help it.
A little bit. Yeah.
I'd say a lot of my coaching styles probably takes after him. But there were some issues to begin with. My freshman year coming into high school and had to deal with that. I stood up for him. I remember sending letters to the school board saying, "Don't fire him. Like, I want him to stay." And that's me in high school being that type of active. Unfortunately, after a senior year, after he won state, he was fired. Doesn't make any sense. But now he's back in the game. But he was just a great all-around coach. He was a player's coach. He knew when to have fun with us, and he knew when to push us to get us to be better.
Yeah. Now, would you consider him an old school coach or a new school coach?
Oh, that's tough. When we think when old school, we're talking like Bobby Knight old school.
I mean, it could be Bobby Knight. It could be, when I look back at old school, and maybe he'll listen. And he definitely changed over the years, especially in his twilight years, a little bit later on in coaching. But Stan Matty, they called him Mad Dog Matty, and my God, there were times. Well, you knew when you screwed up, right?
Yeah.
But he would pat you on the back, afterward. I think that there's a little bit of negative connotation when you call somebody an old school or a new school coach.
I agree completely. Because
you can have a little bit of old school in you, as long as you're utilizing positive reinforcement.
Agreed. I agree. I think, I'd say he was a healthy mixture of both. I mean, he was probably old school in the way that, he was a vocal coach. When everyone thinks old school coaches, they think of Bobby Knight. They think being loud, boisterous, all that stuff, just being very loud, like I am. I'd say in some regards, I'm a mixture of both. But he was a guy that he was loud. He wanted to make sure that his point was getting across. And people don't realize that sometimes as a coach, the best way for that to happen on the court is to be loud. And unfortunately, I think when that happens, our tone's taken into consideration, which we don't worry about our tone in the middle of a game.
Now, do you think that here's going to be another? We're going to open up a can of worms. All right, I'm just going to throw it out there. Do you think that travel ball? When a parent has paid so much money. They've all these miles on their vehicles. They spend an enormous amount of time, and maybe pressure. I don't know. And I look back at travel ball. I look at my daughter's experience, and it's a little mixed. But do you think that's why parents find it hard when a coach gets on their fellow student athlete or their kids because they have such a buy-in with this travel ball stuff?
I think it's possible. I think in some scenarios it is. I was lucky enough to coach AAU for one summer with Coach Harmon, who's the reason I am a head coach now. But parents need to know what they're signing up for. I remember watching this game, and there was this coach, and he was sitting on the bench, and I wouldn't say he was old school. I would just say he was a jerk. He was yelling at players, "Oh, what, you didn't make that pass? Way to go, Mr. Selfish. Your butt's coming here on the bench." And he was saying stuff like this. And these were, 14, 15, 16-year-old kids. And if they made two mistakes, he literally helped untie a kid's shoes at the end of the bench in the first half because he was done with them. That is definitely crossing the line. That's never okay. But I think to some degree, when parents do put all this money in the travel ball, it does kind of reiterate the fact that we put all this money and our kid has to be good. And he has all these skills, And the fact is, a lot of these travel ball teams, they're not teaching kids skills. They're just putting together a group of kids so they can go play. Yeah, to win, to go play, but they're not developing skill like they're supposed to. They're not developing all these things. And so when you get to a high school coach that cares about the small details and fundamentals, and we harp on it, and we get on kids for not being able to master them or work on them that much, we get seen in a negative light because of it.
Yeah, and I'll just throw this out there. I'm probably the biggest stickler when it comes to those fundamentals things, in our practice.
Oh, agreed.
It's crazy. Now, here's something to keep in mind, and this is coming from me, obviously. But like, let's say you're star athlete, little Johnny, okay, and Johnny, we want you to go out for basketball too. Okay, we'll see if they listen. Okay, but let's say little Johnny, after the end of the game, he's one of the better players. He misses a free throw, we lose the game. Okay. I personally believe that we should have our varsity kids drive home on the bus with us, so mom and dad can chill out, so that the kid can chill out. so you can have that interaction with your teammates, and also that takes away that scenario that on the way home where the parent isn't a parent, they're the coach.
I agree. Too often the parent tries to play the coach. They don't try to be the parent. I've listened to other podcasts. I've done, read articles.
They're not as good as this one.
They're not as good. Not even close.
Yeah.
There are articles out there that say the most dreaded part of a kid's high school basketball season or football is riding home with parents.
Yeah.
They hate it because the parents are no longer parents in that situation. They're the coaches. They're not even coaches. They're just critics. Okay, they're critics of the coach. They're critical of their kid, of the other teammates. It's a very negative and toxic environment most times, and so the kids don't enjoy that. And when the kid's hearing all the negative things all the time, whether it's about the coach, about their teammates, about themselves, how does that build confidence in anything? How does it build confidence in the way the players respect the coach, the players play with their teammates, the player and their abilities? It creates a lot of problems. I want to ask, if parents are listening, how many times after a game do you tell your kid, hey, I really enjoy watching you play. I don't care that you missed the game-winning free throw, or you struck out, or you threw an interception that cost the game, but how often do you tell your kids, I really enjoyed watching you play today? Because those years come and go fairly quickly.
Oh man, I look at how many times old coach dad, and most of the time I was coaching my daughter too. We'd be on the way home, and I'm like, oh my God, you're only 1 out of 4. That's 250 batting average. You know what? We have to throw all that stuff aside if we're ever going to develop real quality athletes. And I have to throw this out there because, frankly, and I know that I can speak with you in this regard.
Oh, yeah.
We're not just coaching athletes. We're coaching the next generation that's going to be out there battling every day, in the working world.
Like kind of the Michigan baseball article, we're coaching future husbands, fathers, all these wonderful things that we really have to we have to make sure our kids are getting these skills. And it's the skills of, not being critical, being accepting, of handling the, adversity.
Mm-hmm. And, granted, there are times, that a kid may act that, kid banks in the winning shot.
Yeah.
They get too excited.
Oh, yeah.
They're what we have to do is we have to build it so we win with dignity and we lose with dignity.
Exactly. You carry yourself in a win the same way you carry yourself in a loss. And for me, I'm a big stickler on that. Probably sometimes overly.
Yeah, maybe a little bit.
Yeah. But my high school coach always said that you win and lose the exact same. I remember losing the state championship and winning it. Our demeanor was the exact same until we shook the opponent's hands, and after that, we celebrated, or we were distraught.
Absolutely. Now, the next question, is interesting because you came to Southeast Iowa. You uprooted, and how many miles away? Or how many hours driving?
It's like 17 hours.
17 hours. So you came 17 hours to create a championship level program.
Yep.
Okay. And you took a chance there. Yeah, it's one of those things.
Oh, yeah.
The good news is seeing this baseball team doing what it's doing. Hopefully it expands into football and into basketball as well. What does it take to make a champion?
That's the tough question. Every coach asks himself that. And if they don't, then they're probably not doing their job. And that's honestly should be high school level on up. High school, we have state championships. Mm-hmm. College, professional, all that stuff. I think Nick Saban said it best, is that winning is very uncommon. Winning is uncommon. If you look at the NFL, at the end of each season, there's 2 teams in the Super Bowl. There's 1 winner. That means 31 other teams are losers in that regard. Same with hockey, baseball, basketball, whatever. There's only 1 true winner. So it's not common to be a winner. And so I don't think it comes down to coaching all the time. It comes down to the players. The players want to be winners. They want to be champions. And for me, and when I was growing up, it all started with me and my friends, we had a goal. Like, we wanted to make the state tournament. And then after that happened, we wanted to win the state tournament. And so what do? We put in the time, we put in the hours, we put in the work. We put in a lot of time trying to get better. But
now, I'm just interrupting you here just briefly. Now, you still played multiple sports, correct?
Football, basketball, and baseball. Yep.
Okay.
And basketball in high school ended up being my love. I'd go to football practice, but after that, I might shoot for 20 minutes on the weekends after a game. Saturdays, Sundays, I'm kind of resting. I might shoot for 20 minutes. There's nothing wrong with that. It's needed. You need that type of diversity.
Yeah, but that takes hunger.
It
right?
does.
Now what made you so hungry for this?
Oh, I remember this vividly. Freshman year, I got a varsity jersey. Didn't play a lot of varsity, hardly any, maybe not at all. Forever ago, it seems like. But JV had a great season. Sophomore year, varsity jersey. Play a little split time, and we go to the state tournament. And in Colorado, it's double elimination. So you can lose the first game, then you get in the consolation bracket. It is, and so basically you play for 5th place, the best of the losers. And I remember sophomore year, we lost the first game, and we won the next 2. We're the consolation champions, 5th place, and the team's celebrating and all that stuff. And I'm just thinking to myself, why are we celebrating 5th place? Why? Like, what's impressive about 5th place? We are the 5th place team. I don't want to be 5th place in anything I do. I always want to be the best. And so I remember after that going home and shooting, working constantly. And for me personally, I never wanted to be the worst player. I remember starting out basketball, I was awful. I didn't even start the B team in 5th and 6th grade. I was just bad, but I had this drive where I did not want to be the worst player. Whether that meant going in shots up on my own, because my family is not a basketball family. My brother played baseball, my dad played baseball, and my mom was a cheerleader. So basketball is foreign territory for everyone. So it was just me working by myself on my own to get better. It's just this drive that some people have and some people don't, I'm coming to realize. I always thought that when you play a sport, you want to win as badly as possible, and you're doing it whatever it takes. But the more I've been around it, that's actually a very rare trait. That's why you have teams that go 500 consistently, or 600, or maybe you have a 600, winning percentage, or 400, because the kids don't have that hunger. And now coaching comes into it too. You have to instill this belief in these kids that they can win games, that they can be the best possible. You have to create a winning environment. One, by holding kids accountable. But I see tweets like this all the time, and it says, a good team is coach-led, a great team is player-led.
Yeah.
So I think the hardest thing is teaching our kids to be leaders. And when we teach our kids to be leaders, I think that's when we take that next step into building a championship program.
Sure. We look back at there were moments in our district game, and our record wasn't very good. You know what I mean? When you look at our basketball season last year, but there was a moment in that district game where we played at their level.
Oh yeah.
And
I agree. And I think back to my first year here. The previous seasons were 11 wins, 5, 5, 5. And we get 18 wins. We're playing Wapello, which no one thought we had a chance to win. They beat every opponent by 20-plus points. First quarter, we're down 22-9. And I'm thinking to myself, here we go. It's fine. We got to chip away. We got to keep fighting back. And we did. I mean, we lost by 9 points. We got to within 2 multiple times in the second half. But those kids didn't have that championship mentality because they hadn't experienced success. And they experienced, I was their 3rd coach in 4 years, so naturally there was no consistency. But we're trying to develop here across all programs, because I want every sport centrally to be a state tournament contender. One is teaching kids to be accountable and to be leaders. We don't have that many leaders yet, because being a leader means that you're holding your teammates accountable, you're holding your friends accountable, and kids don't want to tell their friends, get to weights. You better work hard. It's tough.
I'm going to give a Waylon Wyrather a shout out right now. I remember the last game, and he came to the side and he says, "Let the young kids play." That is a leader.
That is probably one of the best memories I'll ever have of coaching. Is someone being, in their last basketball game ever, it makes sense to want to play. Yeah. But he came over and said, "Put the young guys in. Put them in." I mean, that's a true leader right there. That's someone that, they know what's important. And he wasn't thinking about himself. He was thinking about the team as a whole. Yeah. And that's something I'll always remember.
Yeah, my hair stands on end. Yeah, I did color my hair, folks. I look at least 10 years younger, maybe. Now, the mad culture. we experienced that as a coach at least once or twice, a season. Sometimes it's more often than that, right?
Sometimes out of season.
Now, do you see this more of a problem during the when you're winning, or when you're losing?
I think it's both. I think it's both. It doesn't matter. The fact is, it comes down to parents. And I love my parents. Everyone loves their parents, and parents are supposed to love their kids. All right? And they do. But there is a line that gets crossed when we only see our own kids in rose-colored glasses, where they are just the best thing ever, and no one's better than them. And that's where we cross this line.
It's tough enough to try to coach a game, than to have to look across occasionally and see that parents, their eyes like staring at your soul. Right?
Oh yeah, you can feel it burning into you. But it's getting out of hand to the point where we can't get people to coach anymore.
Yeah. Officials, coaches. Yeah.
No one wants to do it. It's a thankless job because I remember my first year, we went 18 wins. And I remember after we lost that game, and that was heartbreaking for me and those kids. We were out there and we're all, talking to family and all that stuff. And I'm talking to someone from Central League comes by and just boom, shoulder checks me.
Shoulder checks.
Yeah, because I didn't play their kid. At the end of the day, like I said, the high school thing is to win. Our goal is to win, and unfortunately, it comes at the cost of kids not playing sometimes, and that's just what it is. But parents can't get so ingrained in the fact that, well, my kid's out, so they deserve to play, or they're a senior, they deserve to play, or even it's the point now where if they're a freshman and they're not getting varsity jersey, then there's something wrong with the coach.
Yeah,
parents need to have these realistic expectations of their kids.
Yeah,
they need to understand the fact that my kid does need to do better at this. And I think if they were to do that and understand that their kid needs to get better, their kid would be better because their parents would say, hey, you need to work on this instead of your game's perfect the way it is.
Yeah, I think it really truly starts out at that very first parent-coach meeting, that you have, at every time. You lay everything out, your expectations, and I believe that, we're getting to the point to where we have to say, hey, we have to have a proper chain of command. Okay, where we're not teaching the student athlete anything if the parent bypasses.
Agreed.
Okay,
I agree. And I think the hardest thing is, and I know I probably get flack for saying this, is kids lie. Okay, they do. We're high school teachers. We know that sometimes kids don't want to tell the truth, and so the message they're relaying from coach to parent isn't always 100% accurate. So there's a lot of fallacies in there, and sometimes it's just plain not true. And so that gets coaches in the hot water because parents always believe their kids to start off, which they should. But instead of having a nice dialogue between both, it's automatically a screaming phone call, a long email at midnight. It's something that is just out of proportion. And as a coach, and I know you would agree, that if the parent were to come in and say, hey, can we have a sit down and discuss this as adults first, there wouldn't be a problem. But after we get an email or a loud phone call, we don't want to sit down with that parent anymore.
Yeah, and truly, this is why you're seeing a lot of coaches leave the ranks. The good, the bad, the ugly coach, whatever. They're leaving the ranks. The officials. If you look at baseball, softball officials in the last 10 years, I believe that it's cut off 42%.
Yep.
42%. Teachers in 5 years. I think they said the average is 50% of teachers within 5 years will give it up.
Yeah. And, it's tough. I mean, teaching and coaching, those two things go hand in hand because they're both working with the youth to make it better. But they're thankless jobs. Every person out there thinks they can do it. I mean, the amount of parents that you hear, oh, I can do that. But I think it's because parents don't understand what coaching fully entails. Okay? You have kids. You probably told your kids to do something 3 or 4 times, and if it doesn't get done, right? That's coaching a lot of days. We tell kids, hey, we got to do this, this, and this. We demonstrate it, go through it 3 or 4 times, and they still don't get it. And it's not one person. It's 17 kids trying to run through this one drill to make everything function. And if one person messes up, it just doesn't work. And
see, that's where you develop that culture. Not only with your student athletes, but with your coaching staff. You bond them out. So if one guy is really getting on this guy, then the other coach can come over and take care of that situation. But at the end of the day, it's a real issue. And I'm going to be having a book that's going to be coming out here in the fall. It's called The Mad Culture in Athletics, and it's all not only is it going to have real life experiences and frustrations from coaches, community, administration, officials, whatever, but it's also going to have some of this positive reinforcement strategies available, for all of us coaches out there. And anytime that let's face it, everything that we do as a coach, we've stolen.
Oh, we have.
Right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's a saying when going through, teacher college, beg, borrow, and steal. That's the same thing for coaches. We beg, borrow, we steal from other coaches, from YouTube. I mean, from everything. You have to, because you never know everything. I mean, if I as a coach feel like I know everything, we're not going to win any games. It's not going to happen.
I'm going to go ding, ding, ding. Evan, you don't know everything. Okay.
Yeah, that's true.
It's one of those things. But, something that I would like to maybe touch base on, maybe in a future show is playing time and kind of that evaluation and, what it takes to be a varsity high school athlete.
Oh, yeah.
I think that'd be interesting.
I think that'd be good. I think that's something that I don't think parents fully understand. I think they get caught up anymore, like, well, they were really good in like 12 and under ball and then junior high ball, and so I don't get it's just transferable skill. They're playing the same competition. No, they're not. Competition changes every year. The little kid that used to play in 7th grade that was 4'2" is now 6'4". His game's evolved, and it's just evolving with the time. I think that'd be a great episode.
Let's see, Brian Wells. He was a state championship pitcher with Central Lee. And he remembers being the freshman and the sophomore and getting pounded.
Oh yeah.
Playing because they were playing older athletes, but they played good competition. And then by the time they got to be seniors, they won a state title. So that stuff happens.
It does.
Let's see, who's your hero growing up?
Oh, that's tough. That's a tough question. You're putting me on the spot here.
Yeah, you want me to tell you mine?
Yeah, go first.
Now, a lot of people will say, "Oh my God, I can't believe that guy would be a hero." It's Pete Rose, Charlie Hustle, and the reason being is that guy played so hard, 100-mile-an-hour all the time, sliding head first. He was the first out of the dugout. If there was a skirmish, and he's the all-time hits leader. So
yeah, growing up in my younger years, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th grade. My favorite position of football was kicker. I thought that'd be the best job in the world, be an NFL kicker. You go, you kick the ball a couple times a game, and
I could see you on a Mike Ditka program.
And you get paid a little bit. So I loved Jason Elam growing up. He was one of my favorites. If I had to pick someone I looked up to, I might have to say my brother a little bit. Like, he wasn't a basketball player. He was awful at basketball. Tyler, if you ever listen to this, you are awful. He didn't play in high school. He played 2 years and decided, whatever. But I remember coming home from junior high track meet, and we went to stop and watch him play because he was 3 years older than me. And I remember watching him play, and he was a lefty, and he threw, probably low 70s, mid 80s, whatever. But just how dominant he was, and he worked hard at it. I hated playing catch with him because I'm not a fan of baseball. I played it, but whatever.
Were you the second baseman?
No.
Okay.
All over the place. It doesn't even matter. I always had to be a catcher for him, and he's a lefty. He's got that natural left-handed tail, and then he'd throw a curveball to me, and he would never tell me when. I hit my shins too many times. But I remember watching him one game, and he was dominating. I think he had 13 strikeouts. They dominated the game. I remember riding home with my mom. He rode the bus. I'm like, I just really love watching my brother play because he does such a good job. It's so fun to watch him up there, especially in, he's a pitcher. Like, it's literally him versus everyone else when you're up on that mound, and just seeing, his composure and how he did everything, because it was such a, everything did was very fluid, and it was very calm and collected. In his mind, it might have not been, but on the surface, everything was very calm and collected. So I just enjoy watching him play, and I think that's one of the reasons that, I love sports, is because, he always encouraged me to go play sports with him, but also someone I looked up to because of how he always handled himself.
Passion.
Oh, yeah.
It's one of those.
Yeah.
Now, when we look at a lot of our student athletes, heroes.
Oh, yeah.
So, you watch the guys, I just watched the Cubs, play today and lose, by the way. The Red, he slams his helmet down on the ground. What is that teaching? Okay, and I'm going to throw that out there, Puig. Okay, Puig. Hashtag the Puig on Twitter. It's just not very classy.
No, I think we see that in all sports anymore. It's very juvenile. Like, I see one side, they're adults and they get to play this game. Lucky for them, they get to play a game, no matter football, baseball, basketball, earn more money than I could ever dream of making by playing a sport. And it's supposed to be fun, right? I get that. Yes, there's some trash talking. That's fine. But I don't think they understand how big of role models they are to younger kids and how we see that. And I think that's why we see kids acting the way they do today. Well, there was a video last week of some kid, he didn't like to call the ump made, so he walked back to the guy, turned around, flipped him off both fingers, and kept walking. He was and this kid's 9 years old. 9, 10 years old. So, professional athletes, they have the best job in the world getting to play a sport, but they're starting to become horrible being role models. Now, there are great ones. J.J. Watt, great role model, great guy. Mariano Rivera, Derek Jeter, great guys, But anymore, all the bad things are getting, put on media, social media, TV, all that stuff, and kids see that, like, well, if that happens to me, I'm going to act that way because I think it's cool or funny for their friends.
Yeah.
And it's something that's got to change.
Now, coaches, when they melt down.
Yep.
Right. And it happens to all of us, believe it or not.
It does.
Okay, because we are all human.
Oh yeah.
I look back at some memorable coaching situations, and I won't bring up their names, but there was one evening I saw, mad, got thrown out of the game, went out, took first base, threw it in the back of their truck, and left. I mean,
yeah. If you want to see some good ones, minor league baseball managers have the best meltdowns.
Yeah,
they really do.
Oh man, you have to keep your composure.
You do, and it's tough sometimes because you spend days and hours scouting, preparing, putting these things in, and then your kid doesn't run right the first time. Like, okay, maybe the next time. Oh, I don't remember that, and so there's something you spend an hour doing, and then they do it again, and they make a silly mistake. I mean, the fact is, coaches are competitive. Like, especially at the high school level, we're not in here just for, let's all go and have a good time, and if you play and lose, that's fine. Like, we want to win. And so when people make mistakes that we've told them you can't make, or we teach them how not to make them, and they continually do it, and they're not learning from it, that's when we get frustrated. And unfortunately, sometimes it boils over to maybe breaking a clipboard or yelling or whatever the case may be. But I think the most important thing is building relationships with the players so they know that, yes, like, coach still cares about me at the end of it.
Yeah.
And when we talk about the relationships with them, I think the hardest thing is to build relationships with kids if they don't always give their full effort, or they don't try to build one with the coach either.
And it takes one bad apple to destroy the apple cart.
It does. It really does. But it's sports. It's great. It's a game that I love to coach. I love to play. Same with our kids that love to coach, play, and hopefully we'll have some of them be coaches. And maybe for something that we did, I mean, there's no greater feeling than having someone say, "I want to be a teacher because of you," or "be a coach because of you." I think that's becoming harder to get that, though, because as coaches, our expectations are so up here with a lot of our kids, and the relationships. Some coaches build good ones, but I think it's harder to do that now with parent interference.
Yeah, and I do see that. I had a good friend of mine. I'm not going to mention his name tonight. He's a coach, older coach, and he said, I could always tell how good I was doing by how many wedding invitations I was.
Yeah, exactly. Right? Yeah,
it's about building those relationships, and friendships later on.
It is. Like I said, there's no problem that there are kids that will graduate that, I'll be their friend when they get to that appropriate time, because I enjoyed being around them as a player. And I know that they're good people,
Special shout out to Tyler Bryant. Okay. I had the opportunity to coach with him this summer, and it was a blast. And you're going to get an opportunity to coach with him in football. He was a former athlete that I had. I remember going to the Southeast Iowa Football's coaches clinic the last few years or whatever. And when I show up, I see Garrison Carter, I see Brett, all of these guys, Mike Kozarich. I look at all the coaches that I've coached, and I'm like, holy crap!
Yeah.
It's amazing.
It is. Like I said, coaching is a special fraternity. It is a very special fraternity to be in, and it's always even more special when you bring someone into it because you influence their life.
Yeah, it is truly amazing. Now, how far we are? Well, I won't even say that. Now, you look at last season. You look at the struggles we had. If it wasn't for your assistant coaches, you would have been crazy, So you have to also make sure that you surround yourself with good people.
You do, because you're going to have your seasons that are up and down, but even after a bad loss, even on the bench, there's always a time for a laugh once in a while if you have good coaching staff.
I always had a
joke or something in your
Yeah.
pocket to throw out at me,
Yeah.
which I appreciate.
It's it is what it is. Now we're getting down to our last few minutes here. We have Coach Swanson. This is coaching culture and athletics, episode 3, and hopefully we can get Coach Swanson in a little bit more often. Coaching philosophy. Where do you draw your philosophy from? Do you draw it from Bobby Knight throwing the chair? I'm just kidding.
I mean, we're like we don't have chairs. I think it comes from the coaches I've had, as well as what I expect as a player, what I expected of myself, what I expected of my coaches. And I guess I'm lucky because I've played at a high level. I've played in state tournaments. I've seen what works to get there. And so that sets a good blueprint of what it takes to get there.
Yeah.
And so I draw a lot of it from, John Baumgartner, my high school head coach, Robert Harmon, who's the guy who basically helped me get the job down here. I talk to that guy probably once or twice a month, and we just
I was in on that interview. No,
I know. But I talk to him probably once, twice a month about basketball stuff. The guy's a genius. I love him to death. I owe him for this. But I just draw from other coaches. There's a girls coach, I think, was it Linmar? Nate Sanderson, I believe. He was on the Hardwood Hustle.
Yeah.
Great podcast, by the way. And I listened to him. I saw him.
Not as good as this podcast.
Not as good. But I listened to him talk on that, the other week, and jot down stuff from him. I mean, you can find it anywhere, but I think the most important thing is you said, what do you want to be really good at? How are you going to get there? And then write a 3-year goal plan, which I didn't do my first 2 years. I did this year for next 3 years. What are our goals and how are we going to get there?
Okay, so Bobby or Izzo, Krzyzewski, or who do you got there?
That's tough. I love Tom Izzo. He is a tough, hard-nosed guy. Krzyzewski, he demands the best of his players. So is Izzo. Izzo wins consistently with underdogs.
Yeah.
Which that says a lot about him. Krzyzewski gets the best players, and it shows. But also, Krzyzewski's beginning career Army, it wasn't that impressive. And he had to build Duke into what it is. And then I'll go with Gino Auriemma. I remember reading a book by him that said when he took the job at UConn was awful. It was horrible. He thought it was going to be just a one-stop for the place, get some creds, and then move on. But then after being there a little while, he said, why not make this your dream job? Why not make it your dream job?
That's what Krzyzewski did.
Yep.
When you look at it.
Yeah, and so it's tough. I look up to those guys because that's similar to what I'm trying to do at Central Lee. Is I love it. I want to make it my dream job, though, was that team that always gets to state, or it's always fighting for that. And it is tough, especially at the high school level, okay? Especially at the high school level.
Yeah. Now, any shout-outs to anybody out there?
John Baumgartner, my high school head coach. If you ever listen to this, or our son Ryan, who's an assistant at Doane College. Played with Ryan, who's a senior, just like me. We all played together one state. Great guys. Appreciate that. Robert Harmon. I'd love to get him on sometime to talk about stuff. He's, won the 6A state championship as an assistant this past year in Utah. 3 of his kids on that team are going D1, so it's impressive. He coaches AAU with the Salt Lake Bounce. Great guys. I owe them a lot, especially from basketball philosophy and being the player and coach that I am. Just great guys.
That's awesome, man. Episode 3, Coaching, Athletics, and Culture. That is a wrap, folks. We'll see everybody hopefully next week is kind of what I'm thinking.
Sounds good.